Our guest today is a man with his heart and mind entangled in alternative theories. Some may say conspiracy. He is well versed on a number of topics I'd love to discuss, but we couldn't get to all of them today, and so he'll be back again, I'm sure. Today, we primarily discussed flat Earth. I've heard this theory before, but never really had the chance to discuss it with someone who believes. It was a fun conversation, and I hope you enjoy. Here is my friend Joaquin Tron. So, let's talk about flat Earth.
Okay, so flat Earth. I think a lot of people hear that term, and it's immediately something that sounds ridiculous, something that's used as an insult. The flat Earthers, like. We're in the 21st century, and these people still think the Earth is flat. The truth of the matter, yes, there is a modern resurgence of the flat Earth movement. People that don't believe we live on a spinning globe. But the truth of the matter is that 100% of the people that consider themselves flat earthers didn't start as flat earthers. Like there may be some fundamentalist groups that have always, the Bible says this, so it's flat, but that's got to be in the very, very small minority. 100%, 99.9% of the people who consider themselves flat earthers were globe believers for their entire life, because that's what we all grew up learning about.
So what happened to you that convinced you to change your thought process on that?
I mean, it goes back to I guess you could call it an awakening that started back in 2009. That's when I graduated from college and started a band with some friends. And after band practice, we would start watching a bunch of different videos about everything, really, from space. The Mayan calendar was the first one that kind of opened the gates to everything else. We're just on the cusp of 2012, which was going to be the start of a new era, or the apocalypses, and that was just Pandora's box for us. And so after band practice every day, someone would bring something new, and we would learn about ancient aliens and quantum mechanics and the multiverse and all that stuff. We were really, really into science and space documentaries and stuff like that. I mean, I even bought the Cosmos DVD series with Neil deGrasse Tyson just to have projected in our shows. We were a space rock band. We'd all about space rock.
Nice.
And then I got really into aliens and kind of conspiracy theories at the time, and for a while there it became a lot of what I was absorbing, and just learning that maybe the world is not what we've been told, and there's not to say that everything that's out there is legit, but certainly there's a lot of truths that are being occulted. And I think we know that more than ever now, that maybe the world isn't what's being presented to us, right?
Yeah.
So for a while there, I started getting really into kind of the political stuff, and it was just really kind of depressing. It was like just a really bad rabbit hole to go down, and eventually I just stopped altogether. It was too much, and I took my blue pill again, and I went back to living my life, and just didn't look back for a while. And then in 2015, one of my friends sent he would always send these type of like esoteric images. He was really into occult knowledge and tarot and magic and all that stuff. And so he would always send very kind of abstract images. But he sent a map calling itself the true map of the world or something like that. And it was essentially a flat earth map. And he sent another one, a couple of images, but I just thought it was him being esoteric and abstract, and I didn't think much of it. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool looking, but okay. And then after that, at that time there was multiple people on YouTube that had come out with these series of proofs that the world we live in is not a spinning globe in space, and it's actually a flat, motionless, static plane.
So then what happens at the edge? I mean, the thing that people try to ridicule this movement by saying is that you fall off the edge. So what is the edge?
And that's kind of what we're told, the Columbus story, that he was going to sail off of the edge. And so that's when you're young, when you first go into school, and the first thing you see when you get to the classroom is a globe. You're told this is the world we live in. Your mind is still developing. You have no reason not to trust the person that's in front of you telling you this is where you live. People used to believe we lived in a flat world, but and then Columbus was going to sail off the edge, so you have this image of water running off of the edge, and in fact that's probably used in textbooks with water going.
Well, yeah, I mean that's why I'm asking, because that's the only thing that I've ever seen explained.
Okay.
So what really happens? Is there an edge?
Well, the map that is kind of most used by flat earthers today, it's called the AE map. It's
called the what?
I mean, just look up flat Earth map, and you'll probably see it. Actually, just to go on a little bit of a tangent, actually, this is the first image that...
This one?
Yeah, that's the first one that I saw. So I thought it was just kind of, there's some angels on the corners, and it's the Bible. This is described in the Bible, square and stationary Earth.
Yeah, it says, map of the Earth made in 1893 by Orlando Ferguson. So you're saying he came up with this, and the people that you're involved with now currently subscribe to this, or this is considered nonsense?
This is just the first image that I ever saw about this, and it kind of caught my eye. But I thought it was just, an abstract image. I didn't understand it. If you go back to where it says the map, though, we can pull up, and this is kind of an aside, but the image that I prepared to have on my site is essentially the map.
Okay.
So people can kind of look at it and
we'll have on your side for your... Okay, cool.
Yeah, so...
Is there anything I can look at here, though?
The first one that comes up.
That one?
Mm-hmm. So this is...
Okay.
This is kind of the popular map that's used, and coincidentally, it is the map in the logo of the UN flag. But think of that what you will. So it is said that this is a projection of a globe being flattened out, but the reality is it's also the image of a flat image, that can be put around the globe, and it kind of ties it up nicely. But essentially what flat earthers believe the Earth to be is, imagine a large pond or a large lake. There's a shoreline around the lake. And so we have the North Pole at the center of the Earth. Okay. All the continents are surrounding it. And then you have Antarctica, which we're told is an island at the bottom of the world. But Antarctica is really the outer perimeter or the shoreline of the large Earth pond.
Huh. Okay. But what happens beyond that?
Well, that would be speculation on our part. There's a very interesting treaty that is signed in the 50s called the Antarctic Treaty. Okay. And it was signed by a lot of the major, like all the countries in the world, and it's been signed, I'm not sure, I don't know off the top of my head, but all the countries that have signed it. But essentially it restricts travel beyond, I think, the 66 parallel. Don't quote me on that, but basically you can't travel below to Antarctica
past a certain point.
Past a certain point, right? And it's there's military parts, and you can go to there's certain points. There's bases close to South America, at the bottom of South America. You can go and hang out and see the penguins. There's a lot of science and military bases down there. So there's people that live there, and there's people that are stationed there. But there's in the Antarctic Treaty, you're not allowed to take a certain amount of fuel. So basically, it makes exploring and you can't go independently. You have to go by an escort. Okay. So it's highly guarded. You can't just go there on your own and explore Antarctica.
I can't just get a ticket on a ship and go to Antarctica and walk around and do stuff. Somebody's going to stop me.
Yes.
Okay.
At least.
I thought there was some, and maybe this doesn't mean it's real, but I thought there was somebody recently that took a bunch of sled dogs across it. And
there's always stories and that come up. There's a guy that supposedly traveled across Antarctica. If you look at the map of what he actually did, and this is just from kind of reading about it a while ago, but he kind of crosses a certain way that it makes it look like you're crossing Antarctica. But you can go a certain way, and actually, I'm not 100% on that, but.
Well, yeah, I'm interested now.
Sure. If there is
maybe that one.
Okay, I'm not even sure if that's
South Pole Traverse. I've never seen it laid out like that. That's cool.
If that's what that red line is, and I'm not totally sure, but you're going. Oh, I guess they're showing you how they go to the South Pole, which is really just there's no South Pole. It's just a thing that's there.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never seen this photo before. Now we got to add on there.
Yeah. So with this map, essentially,
So then, what happens with elevation and just the perimeter is?
Just look up pictures of Antarctica, and it's such a visual thing to be able to understand where we come from. But if you look at pictures of Antarctica, it's some of the highest elevation on Earth, and people ask where's this? It's like an ice wall, but essentially, Antarctica is a giant ice wall that keeps the water down, and it's the shoreline, and in a lot of places it's very highly elevated.
It's kind of like the wall in Game of Thrones. It keeps the White Walkers out.
So what's beyond the wall? Yeah. We don't know. Maybe some people, speculate. This is getting into the realm of speculation, but it's fun to consider. As far as we know, this is the world that we know about because this is a world that we can access. Mm-hmm. There could be more land beyond. Who knows? Mm-hmm. There could be. Who knows? That's up to speculation. But
why doesn't some dude from the movement just hijack a plane?
Again, there's military presence in Antarctica. Okay, and you can only take so much. There's a lot of people that have been let's go. It's just a matter of making it happen.
Okay, so this is good visual reference. What about if we laid this flat on the table and you went up, then you'd go into space, right?
So that's another, so I want to kind of talk about what the misconceptions of flat Earth and what people, I think the first thing that, like when you hear the words flat Earth, what's the first image that kind of pops into your head?
An Earth with the water going over the edge, like what we were talking about?
Floating in space, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, right, we understand space a certain way, again, because that's what we've been told, and that's what we believe.
Because we have the stars above us, because we were talking about that earlier.
For sure.
Where certain things have been studied over the course of human history, and our ability to map the stars has allowed us to understand other events. So the stars have to exist above us.
Absolutely. That's undeniable. We have stars. We have planets, which are also referred to as the wandering stars. They're lights in the sky that move independently from the entire, constellation or the stars. And we have the other two luminaries. We have the sun and the moon. Mm-hmm. So back to kind of the misconception. I think a lot of people, like you said, think of this like flat disk floating in space. No flat earther believes that. That's not a thing. Those are images that are used in kind of debunking articles and all these articles that come up. And if you look up in YouTube, there's a lot of, if you look up flat Earth, the first thing that you're going to get is kind of debunking videos with that image. Oh, is that a...
I think that's
cool.
a band or something.
Good for them. So there... Before this movement, there's this thing called the Flat Earth Society, which I don't know if you've ever heard about that. Essentially, it's what's a controlled opposition. It's basically this forum or this society that was formed to throw people off. And if you look in there, it's just this ridiculous information. You see the disk floating in space, and they're told that this disk is rising at a rate of like 8 meters per second or something like that. And it's just ridiculous, non-scientific, and essentially like
but is there a picture of what you're saying you believe it looks like? Is there a picture I can see? Because I can't imagine anything other than a plate sitting in space.
Well, I mean, I think the map that we were looking at is the coast.
But I want to see underneath and above. You know, I want to see it in 3D space.
Right.
Because I don't understand what's underneath it.
Right. And we don't either. And that's the thing. We don't have all the answers. We only have what we can gather by evidential observations.
Well, and the thing is...
But did you know, for example, that the deepest hole...
I was just looking it up.
Yeah. The deepest drilling, is 12,000 meters, which is about 8 miles. It happened in Russia, I believe. And this, so they dug and they wanted to see as far as they could go. And after 8 miles, they couldn't get through. They were just unable to keep digging deeper. Mm-hmm. So essentially, we can dig as far as that, and the Mariana Trench is the deepest part of the Earth, the ocean, and it's not much deeper than that, or it might be even a little bit more shallow than that. So it's a little bit
11,000 meters
less than that. So if you think about the
7 miles,
the circumference of the Earth, which is closer to 25,000 miles.
Circumference of the Earth? I thought it was 30,000. 24,000 miles.
Yeah, 24,000 miles. So digging 8 inches into it, if you were looking at an apple, it's not even digging halfway down the skin of an apple. So how can we know for certain what is beneath that? It's another kind of just so story. It's a theory, and what we're shown when we're kids as well. You see the crust cut of the earth, and you see all the different layers and the core, and then you accept that as fact. But that's unproven. That's just theory. That's taught as fact. And when you start to look at, I mean, I think the study of flat Earth begins with the study of heliocentrism, and what we currently believe. And in fact, I think flat earthers today probably know more about the mainstream heliocentric model than most globe believers.
You're saying that flat Earth confirms heliocentrism?
Heliocentricm is, it's the model where the sun is at the center of our solar system.
Yes.
Flat earthers believe that Earth is the center of creation.
Okay.
The sun and space do not exist the way that we're told. The sun is not 93 million miles away.
So Galileo was wrong then?
I mean, again, it's a study into why we, the history of why we believe what we believe in the mainstream model. And when you start to look at it, it's just built on a series of assumptions. A lot of people would say that, yes, the curvature of the Earth was proven by Eratosthenes 4,000 years ago, or whenever that was. And he had, the experiment is he had 2 wells in distant cities. And one day you could see when the sun, at the same time, the sun would not cast a shadow or in one of the wells, and it would cast a shadow on the other one, or sticks is usually referred to. You can have 2 sticks in distant lands. So if the sun's rays are coming in parallel to the Earth, then that must mean that there's curvature, because the sticks should have the same shadows.
Okay.
But that's based on the assumption that the sun is, far, far away. The same result could happen if the sun is local and just above the Earth.
Is that what you believe then? That the Earth is, or that the sun is just what, like a few miles above us? What is the general theory?
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly not 93 million miles away.
Okay.
Right? It's just right there. You look at it and it's coincidentally the same size as the moon, even though the sun is supposed to be 400 times larger and 400 times away.
That is kind of a weird coincidence that they're the same size.
I mean, and I'm jumping all over the place.
Yeah, that's all right.
But
so we're on a flat plane. The edges are supposedly Antarctica. We don't know what's beyond that because we can't go past it because all these different governments have bases and stuff and they won't allow anybody through there. The sun is just sitting above us. Who knows how many miles, 10, 20 miles or whatever. Not much.
More than that.
How much? 100? 1,000?
I couldn't say. I couldn't
but
say.
Not 93 million.
Not 93 million miles away.
And so the moon, are you saying the moon is the sun because they're the same size? They're the same thing?
No, but there are 2 luminaries that we witness. You can see them every day moving above us.
Okay.
That's another. So just I'm going to come back to all this, but I want to first go back and talk about the current understanding of what we believe in, the globe Earth, and just understand what that is. Because to understand kind of where we're going, we need to understand where we are today.
Okay.
So currently today, we believe that we're on a globe, that we're in a ball that's flying in space. And we have to understand the orbital mechanics of what all the motions that take place. Because again, when we're kids, we're shown this picture of the universe or the solar system. We're shown a static sun in the middle, and the planets orbiting around it, doing elliptical orbits around it in a plane. So all the sun, and then the sun around it. But that's not the only motion that's happening, right? So the Earth spins. Do you know how fast the Earth spins?
It's like 1,000 miles per hour.
Yeah, there you go. 1,000 miles per hour at the equator, and it's
1,000 miles per hour,
angled, right? It is at an angle of 23.4 degrees, or
which
66.6 from if you.
Which gives us the seasons, right? Because it gradually changes according to commentary.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have that motion. We're going around the sun at. Can you look up? I have all these numbers.
No,
but,
it's good. It's good to look them up anyway, because then we know we're right.
Exactly. Yeah. No, and it's good.
What is the speed the Earth rotates around the sun? What is the speed?
Yeah, the speed of the Earth.
Of the Earth
around
rotating around the sun.
Sure. Yeah.
30 kilometers per second.
That's the speed of. Okay, but
67,000 miles per hour.
Right? And then the sun is moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour around the galaxy, and then the galaxy is moving around the Great Attractor at untold speeds that are just mind-boggling. Okay. So we have all these motions that you have to think about it, and it's really not one motion. Everything is in motion, right? According to so. Given that, you would imagine that when we look up at the stars, you wouldn't have fixed constellations. You could argue that, but and they would have to be very far away. But since recorded history, since we know the constellations never change, they are predictable. Everything always resets, and there is a pattern to the way the stars
do move though, because you can look at the night sky and it will move.
Of course, right. There is motion in the stars above us, and we can see that. But year after year, they reset. And if you look at the star Polaris, which is the North Pole star, you can get a PVC pipe and aim it at Polaris and set it up in your backyard. You'll go back year after year, and it's never going to move. And we're told that it's going to precess, so it's not going to be the North Pole star in 16,000 years. But like, there's no way to verify that.
That's the precession of the equinoxes, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But there's no way to verify that. That's with that number. Cool. Yeah. Maybe.
Cool.
Yeah. How are we going to be able to?
Cool story, bro.
Exactly.
Okay,
but for now, we see that all the stars move. We're told that these stars are untold distances away from each other. You would need to have some type of parallax, which is, when the closer objects move differently from the further away objects. Yet everything moves in lockstep. Okay. So the stars, constellations, everything moves around above us. This is true. We know this. And then as far as the sun and the moon, even eclipse cycles are predictable, and they repeat patterns. If you're spinning in all these different directions at these insane speeds, for that to happen, it would be, it's impossible. And here's a pretty cool example. Actually, pull this up because I had. The sun travels 4.5 billion miles in a year, right? That's
through the universe,
space. Through space, right? Halley's Comet comes back every 75 years, and it's predictable by clockwork. How is it that a comet or some space junk, whatever a comet is going to catch up to the sun that travels 4.5 billion miles in a year and then get thrown off and then come right back? It makes no sense.
Well, I think what they say is that it's just in orbit around the Earth, or is it in orbit around the sun?
Well, and yeah, I think it's around the sun, but you still have to, I mean, that's 4.5 billion miles times 75. So it's going to go back and lose its, go in its elliptical path or whatever it is, and then come back every 75 years after the sun has traveled some 337 billion miles.
It says it orbits around the sun, highly elliptical. The thing that's crazy to me about that is that it doesn't hit anything.
I mean,
That's
who knows?
crazy.
Who knows?
How does it just keep going and not hit anything?
Yeah, I mean, a comet, we don't know what a comet is. I think the whole point of this is just to understand that we have the stars, we have the moon, we have the sun above us. They're mysteries, but science tells us they know for certain what they are when we don't really know. Mm-hmm. And I think flat Earth, kind of, it's easy to dismiss it as anti-science, this kind of propaganda term that's being thrown around. But I think a look into this investigation is the opposite of that. It's because science is not an ology; it's a method. So it's
well, science is only right as long as you can prove it's right.
Exactly.
That's the cool thing about science is you're constantly checking it, and as soon as you find out that it's wrong, then there's a different truth.
So here we are.
Yeah. So I mean, it's only fact or something that you believe until somebody proves it wrong. And I mean,
extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So sorry, keep explaining to me though, what gives us day and night? Where does the sun go?
Well, the sun, since it's close and local and you see it, move above your head, look at it, like do a time lapse of just look, do a time lapse of the sun setting. You'll realize it's not, the sun doesn't go down, it just goes further away and recedes into the horizon, which is just where our line of perspective converges. There's no geographic horizon that we can see. It's only a matter of perspective.
I'm trying to perceive it on this map right here.
I mean,
so if it is constantly changing for everybody, does that mean it's just rotating like it's just going around in a circle?
Right. Yeah. So the
okay.
sun.
Do you want to try to share that? If you send it to the.
Yeah, this is the image that I was gonna.
Oh, this is what we're gonna put on the.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Cool.
And I can show you. Yeah, more example. I turned off my phone, but there's kind of animations of how this works. But essentially, the sun moves around in circles around. Yeah.
Dude, that shit is wild.
Okay, so if we're looking at this flat Earth map, the AA map, we have the North Pole in the middle. All of Antarctica is south. So if you have a compass, it's always going to point to the center, to north, because that's magnetic north. The south is everything that's just around it. And then when you travel east, you're always going in a counterclockwise motion. Okay. If you're going west, you're always going in a clockwise motion. So people talk about, circumnavigating the globe, and that is absolutely possible when you're going east and west, and there's countless numbers. I mean, my wife and I took a around the world trip in 2017, and we went from Texas to Japan and Asia, and then to Europe and Africa, and we came back to New York, and we went around in a clockwise direction. But did you know that there's no recorded south to north circumnavigation? I mean, you can travel around in a circle, and if you think about it on a ball, you can travel this way, but there's no one that's completed a north to south navigation. So there is apparently one, but when you look at his itinerary, the guy traveled from the north to Antarctica and then turns around and then comes back around the other way. Mm-hmm. So it didn't go through Antarctica through the south. He had to turn around because it was too cold, allegedly. And then they still gave him the record. So there's that should be something that would be possible if you're in a ball, right? The same way that you can travel east to west, you should be able to travel north and south. Mm-hmm. Yet it's not a thing.
Okay. So then what happens for the seasons? Does that mean that the sun shifts where it rotates?
Okay, so...
Because that would change the seasons, right?
So you have the equator that's going to be a circle around, basically one of those latitude lines is the equator. Well, you have this picture here, the equator. And then you have the Tropic of Cancer above, closer to the north, and the Tropic of Capricorn to the south. So in the northern, and the equator divides the northern and the southern hemisphere, right? So in the summertime for the northern hemisphere, the sun travels closer to the Tropic of Cancer. Okay. And at the summer solstice, that's when the sun is at the Tropic of Cancer. And then it goes around, throughout the year, it goes from Tropic of Cancer and then it spirals out to the Tropic of Capricorn at the winter solstice, which is southern hemisphere summer, but it's our winter. Okay. So the seasons are marked by the sun's path.
And then for eclipses, the moon would just have to go underneath the sun, right?
Well, there's a lot of people that are studying kind of the electromagnetic nature of our realm. And there's a lot more smart people than I am that are looking at how the moon and the sun could be electromagnetic manifestations.
How is it possible?
So just to answer your question, like as far as an eclipse, I don't know, but it happens. But it doesn't mean, like we're told that it's the Earth kind of casting its shadow on the moon, depends on the eclipse. But there's no way to verify that.
How is it possible that we are this technologically advanced and we have computers in our pockets and you can get a heart transplant, but we can't send something into space to understand this? What happens every time we send a rocket into space or the International Space Station or any of those things that happen? Mm-hmm. Are those actually happening?
Well, I think the biggest hurdle for kind of allowing ourselves to understand this information is giving up the idea that space is what we've been told, and really it's a study of propaganda and understanding that NASA is a government-controlled agency, and so everything that we know about space is probably just a fabrication.
I could get behind that, but what I'm saying is why Like Bezos just went, like he didn't go to space. He went into higher orbit. So, okay, maybe he can't tell from up there. But so what about the image, the super famous image that was supposedly taken from like Apollo 13 or something, where they're out in space and they're looking back at the Earth?
So
was that fabricated?
So that's what one of the moments that was my aha moment in all of this, when I started getting images from my friend and there was a video that leaked from one of the Apollo missions where they were supposedly taking a photo from, or shooting video from, or getting a photo from where they were of Earth and space, and in the video, I guess it was never supposed to be released, but it's them setting up a shot. They have a circular window in the spacecraft, and then they blocked off all the light, and they're, I don't know however much distance they were, but they're looking down. It looks like a round planet, but really it's just, you're looking at clouds and sky, and it's.
But you're saying it's a fake photo. Like,
well,
this is a fake photo?
There's no actual photos of Earth from space. Even all the images that NASA claims they're called images because there's no photos of Earth from space. Okay, even the famous blue marble that was on everyone's iPhone for a long time, it's admittedly created in Photoshop. They take these large strips of data. If you look up blue marble, there's a famous video of the guy that was working at NASA admitting that he had to use Photoshop to create kind of an artistic interpretation of,
to fluff it up.
Yeah, it's and essentially a lot of what NASA puts out are images or CGI. They say the only thing that's going into space is your imagination. So yeah, that's kind of the biggest hurdle for people to get over is the fact that space is, we're told, is created in a Hollywood basement, essentially.
Okay, so I think we touched on this before we started recording, but what is the reason that anyone would want to fabricate all this and suppress it and keep us from understanding the truth? What is the purpose of that?
Well, when you're looking at a globe, it feels complete, right? You see the picture, you feel safe because you know that it's whole. When you look at a picture of the flat Earth map and you don't know what's above, below, to the sides, it's more uncomfortable because there's uncertainty. Mm-hmm. So basically, it's a way to keep people,
to ease our fear.
Well,
is that why they hide aliens too? Because we can't handle the truth?
Well, I think this is the truth that aliens are, that's why we talk about aliens in many ways, but the aliens, just the story from these aliens from outer space just kind of reinforce the story of a spinning globe in outer space and distant planets and stuff like that. But
there's too much unknown, and rather than try to explain it to 7 billion people, they're like, we're just going to go with this. We're just going to tell them this. Things are going to be better. We'll keep them preoccupied with Facebook and Snapchat and Kanye.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a distraction, right? So if you look back at the heliocentric model, at the mainstream spinning globe model, it comes from the idea of a Big Bang, right? This idea
I wanted to ask you that.
Something came from nothing and it exploded, and all the gaseous bits got together and all the rocky bits got together, and then like from primordial soup came the single cell organisms, and there was this evolution. So we have to kind of throw that out too, because it's just a theory. That's maybe, I don't know. I haven't been in school in a long time, but I would imagine that's what I remember. This is this is our understanding of the conception of the universe, right? The Big Bang is just a theory. It's unproven, and it's, no matter what they say, like there's no way to verify that.
Yeah, for sure. It's too long ago.
Right. Even evolution is there's
evolution's kind of pretty solid, isn't it? You can tell people develop certain traits that allow them to survive and defeat viruses, and chameleons can change their skin tone so that they can hide better from predators.
Right, but a single or cell organism from primordial soup kind of developed into two-cell organisms, and over millions and millions and millions of years, it turned into a fish.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy, but it's all we got, man.
Well, the thing about this quest for truth is that we're going to find some places where we can't explain how things are the way they are. And you got to be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I personally don't believe in evolution because there's never been a species to species. It's not proven to, like, from sea animals to animals. Like, what happened? These fish all of a sudden were able to
grow legs,
yeah. Breathe above the earth. It's kind of silly when you really think about it. And yeah, it's all we got, but it's an explanation that people assume has been proven, but it's still the evolution is a theory as well. So that's what happens with a lot of these ideas that people assume have been proven again and again. There's no proof of the Big Bang. There's no proof of evolution. There's no proof of the motion of Earth.
So what do you believe, and is it in line with what flat Earth people believe? What do you believe happened? Where we came from? How we started? Like, you don't know.
I don't know.
It's too difficult to, yeah.
It goes into, you're making speculations at that point and theorizing. I don't know. And there's a lot of questions that I don't have the answer for, and a lot of the flat earthers, and I'm comfortable not knowing, but always wanting to learn more and figure out. I mean, the idea, what I was going to say with the Big Bang, is the idea is that nothing came from nothing, and we're in this insignificant speck floating in the middle of infinity.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's all these videos of like, oh, this is how little the Earth is in comparison to the whole thing. You're basically a speck of dust. You're nothing. Your life doesn't have meaning because you're basically an evolved monkey. You don't matter. It puts kind of God out of the picture, really. It's basically it's nihilism.
Yeah.
It makes people not want to seek.
People are not comfortable
purpose.
with that. People want some sort of assurance. They want safety. They want, no matter how ridiculous it might be, they want to believe that this isn't it. They want to believe there's something else. And so that was my next question. Are there many religious people in the Flat Earth movement?
There is a lot of, and I'm not one of the people, but there are a lot of, there's a lot of Christian and Bible, a lot of biblical creationists, Christians, and yeah, I mean, there's a lot of passages in the Bible that lean in this direction. A lot of people think, the Bible is a flat Earth book, but
there are sections in the Bible that claim the Earth is flat.
In Genesis, it's the way it's described. It's the Earth was created first, and then I'm not sure. I'm not the biblical guy.
Yeah.
Spiritual people in flat Earth, probably 100%. Yeah. A lot of people find kind of the creator. That's the whole point. If Earth is at the center of creation, and this is where we are, and this is it. There's no, we can't verify all these planets from space. Like NASA can tell us that they found a planet where it rains diamonds, which they did. But cool story, bro. Like, just because you can show me that there's 4 pixels, and how could you possibly know that? Mm-hmm. What we see in the stars is it doesn't mean that we can't verify those distances. For example, and yeah, again, sorry, this is like weaving back and forth, but did you know that the distance to the sun, the astronomical unit, which is the Earth, this distance from Earth to the sun, was calculated by looking at the precession of Venus through the sun. So they saw Venus passing through the sun, and it was based on the assumption that Venus must be about the same size of the Earth. So, okay. So there's when you start to look at how all these mathematical figures came about, there's a ton of assumptions that are made about the distances, about what these things are, but there's no way to verify that.
Mm-hmm. Short of sending something into space.
So again, think that there's a limit to what we can reach. There's some people think it's a dome. I don't know. That's kind of weird to say for some people to hear that the first time, because it sounds, I don't know.
It sounds like the Truman Show.
I mean, yeah, it is in a lot of ways. Some people think it's a dome. Some people think it's just kind of like a density thing where we can't get past it. If you look at footage from rocket launches, they always launch in the coast and they always shoot towards the ocean, and then they always go in this elliptical arch. Mm-hmm. And they say that's because it's going around the curvature of the Earth. But if you really look at it, these things are going up and then they're coming right down. So
for you personally, what if someone put you in a rocket and they sent you to space the way that they say they're doing it? That would be able to convince you of
if
anything.
I saw it. Yeah,
if you
of
saw
course.
It.
Again, like I said, I was in the space rock band. I loved space. I loved Star Wars. If I was shown, and I was really proven, again, everything NASA puts out is subject to skepticism, and it should be, right? But if I was shown it, of course, yeah, I'll be like, yeah, okay, there it is. Mm-hmm. Show me the proof. It's been 6 years since this movement has grown, and flat earthers, which is actually, people may think it's just kind of either fundamentalists or people that are, ill-informed or stupid. It's engineers, it's pilots, it's teachers, it's doctors, it's everything you can imagine. Once people really, honestly give it some thought and study it, I can't prove that the Earth is flat in the way I'm showing it here.
Mm-hmm.
But what I know personally is that I'm not on a spinning ball in outer space.
Mm-hmm.
The globe is the lie.
I think it's fascinating. I don't fully subscribe to it, but that's why I wanted to talk to you, because I wanted to hear what you had to say. I personally don't know. I've never been in space. I've never seen it this way.
Me neither. Neither has Neil deGrasse Tyson, by the way. He's never been to space, but...
Well, yeah, you mentioned Neil deGrasse Tyson earlier, and...
Well, that was another moment when I first started looking into this and started questioning, and when it started to make sense, I was like, oh no, what about Neil?
What does he say?
Well, he's kind of condescending about it and just talks a lot of crap about flat earthers, but he's been asked to debate flat earthers for years, and he thinks it's just not worth the time. But really, what would happen if, and I'm not the most well-spoken flat earther. There's people that are that would just put him to shame.
Mm-hmm.
But none of the science, we have to understand that there's science, the method, and then there's science, like capital S, called scientism. It's the industry, the machine of science, and Neil deGrasse Tyson is just a TV personality.
Yeah.
And he's a spokesman, and he's a propagandist and popularizer, like Bill Nye too.
Nye, yep.
I mean, those people in their shows have just ridiculed flat earthers and thrown, never willing to debate.
It's a shame he won't do it. If he was that confident, you'd think he'd just be like, you guys are retarded. I'm going to tell you what's up. But if he won't even do it.
Right. And that, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's another thing. If it's so ridiculous, then you wouldn't have Congress talking to YouTube about, censoring flat earth. And sure, I mean, when I first got into this, YouTube was filled with all this content, and we would get all these recommendations, and at one point it became, I think, a higher trending topic. I think in 2017 or 18 it was a higher trending topic than Donald Trump. So
that's tough to beat.
They're like, hey man, we got to do something about these guys. They're it's dangerous. It's only dangerous to the machine, but like you said, science is about questioning the current understanding, proving it, or if it disagrees with experiment, then it's wrong.
I don't understand the whole movement right now to squash anything that's considered different from the mainstream, different from the main narrative. I think that's a problem with most of the world right now, is no one's teaching critical thinking. No one's teaching use your brain.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of ways, they're just like, accept this is fact, and think about something else. And that's not the way you should live. You should be exposed to this type of thought. You should be exposed to other ideas about evolution or about different religions or whatever. You have to, as a person with a brain, you have to figure out what you think is true and try to do some research and make your own decisions. You shouldn't rely on the government or Donald Trump or Neil deGrasse Tyson, or you shouldn't rely on one specific person to give you the truth.
Absolutely.
Because they could either have a different motive or they could be wrong.
Yeah.
No one knows really that they're right until they're dead.
I mean, yeah, like you said.
And then you figure it out, maybe. Or you just go in the dirt. Who knows?
Maybe, right. I mean, so, and like you said, it's this is what we got, so we're going to go with it. But here's this group of fringe citizen scientists and proper scientists that are proving that there's no way to verify that we live in this ball.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some proofs for the flat Earth. Why do people think it's flat? Number one, water is always going to find its level. Can we agree to that? You have a cup, you fill it with water. It's no matter how you angle, it's going to find its
due to gravity, right?
Well, that's just how fluid. That's how water works.
Do we need to discuss gravity?
Sure, we can talk about gravity, even though it's a point of contention and like semantics. But we can talk about it to my best ability.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry if I interrupted the water thing.
No. I mean, water levels, are used in construction to make sure that something is level. So the oceans make up, 70% of the Earth. There's no proof of water kind of sticking to a round object. There's no proof of water being bent. And sure, an easy way to say is like, okay, gravity. Well, of course, gravity just sticks to it. But gravity is a force. It's supposed to be a weak force, right? It holds down our entire oceans, but a butterfly can float effortlessly in the air. It really is a question of. I mean, it's more complicated than this, but an easy way to say it is like buoyancy versus density, right? So dense objects are going to go down, and then less dense objects are going to rise. So like helium balloons rise. The water is more dense than air, so it stays down. But there's no evidence of water ever conforming to sticking to a ball.
So without
falling.
Is the general consensus then that if we were living in a globe like what we're taught, that the water would not stay, it would just go into space?
It's impossible.
Yeah. Okay.
Impossible.
Okay. So then what happens with flat Earth? It's
a lake.
It's a lake.
It's a giant pond.
So then something has to be containing it, right?
Again, what's below it, who knows?
Yeah.
What's above us, there's a lot of people looking into the sky and the whole nature of it, the electromagnetic nature of our realm, and how water. It's amazing. There's far smarter people talking about that aspect of it, and some that are not flat earthers. By the way, there's a group called the Thunderbolts Project, and they are deep into the electric nature of the universe, amongst many others. There's a lot of people, I guess, who are in the fringe of looking at how the current understanding of our world is just so flawed, and a lot of it comes from just theories and assumptions. Another proof for the flat Earth is that we see too far. Like if we lived in a ball, you would have to be visibly witness, observe, and measure the curvature of the Earth. Like it's a fact, right? The calculation for the curvature of the Earth is you can do 8 inches per mile squared. So after a mile, you're going to drop 8 inches in curvature.
Okay.
Right? So 100 miles, if you're looking 100 miles away, that would be 6,600 feet of water.
Well,
like
supposedly you can only see 2 miles in front of you, right? If you stare out at the ocean, it disappears after 2 miles, right? Something like that?
But that's the thing. There's people that are making observations where they're able to see much further than that. There's people that are doing experiments with lasers from, across the lakes that are much further than that are able to see even inches above the Earth. Something, a laser stays in a constant line, so that's pretty good test. So you're able to observe and measure distances far longer than what you should be on a globe. There's an example of Chicago seen from Lake Michigan from the other side, and it's 62 miles away. At that distance, all the buildings should be completely covered. And they say, oh, there's this video of this weatherman that's like, oh, what you're seeing is a mirage. But a mirage is not going to bend up that far. You have to see the subject in order for it to mirage. So
okay, so why can't I see New York City from here?
Well, that's just a matter of perspective. You only have so much,
fog.
Mountains, but
whatever.
just your, like, everybody has this personal dome of personal atmospheric dome, which is basically from your perspective and the way your eyes work, you see everything like you're kind of in a circle, and everywhere you look, that's going to be the convergence point and perspective, right? Okay. So you're standing in a hotel hallway that's, I don't know, a mile long. Imagine that, and it's lined by lights. All the lights on the ceiling are going to converge at the perceived horizon. If it's 5 miles, you're not going to be able to see past a certain point. Okay. So that's just our
limitations of your vision.
The resolution of our eyes. So when people say, why can't I see New York from here? There's only so far you can see. Okay. And everything is going to converge. Like you see the clouds above you, they're 10,000 feet in the air. And then when you're looking out into the ocean, it looks like the clouds are touching down on the water, but they're all still 10,000 feet. They're all the same level. It's just that your perspective kind of makes it look like things are converging at the point. Okay.
Wow.
So there's tons of observations from long distances. There's an example of Mount Canigou in France that can be seen 175 miles away, and there's a certain time of the year where the sun goes over the mountain and you can see it clearly. You see the sun going behind the mountain, and it's 175 miles away. The top of that mountain should be covered by over a mile of Earth curvature. Like I said, that calculation of 8 inches per mile squared is something that we should be taught as children, right? Like, kids, let's go measure the curvature of the Earth, and it should be easily provable because you should be able to witness it. There's a guy named Jay Tolan on YouTube. He has this infrared lens on I think he uses a Nikon P900. No, it's just the letter J, Tolan. See if it can. Yeah, sure. I can. And what he does is takes long distance. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Louisiana and infrared.
Sure.
Or no, 1,000-mile visibility across Lake Huron.
So so the infrared allows him to see past the density of the atmosphere, and he's able to see way more than we should be able to see. So if the Earth is a ball, it needs to be measurably provable. It's like either we live on a much larger ball, or it is as our eyes show it to be flat, to be a level plane. Again, all that water right there is not curving. You should be able to see curvature, right? So I recommend, this video is 1,000-mile visibility across Lake Huron to Hudson
I'm
Bay.
sure it's easier to do these type of tests too if there's high visibility. Like you're not going to go do it in Beijing because you can't see 5 feet in front of your face in Beijing.
Right. You see, yeah, density. I mean, the density of the atmosphere has a lot to do with it. That's why another one of the classic debunkings is like, ships over the horizon. And what's amazing to me is that after 6 years of looking into this, you look at what's currently being used as debunking material. It's still the same 3 or 4 things that were thrown out. Like when I first started looking at this, like ships disappear bottom up from the horizon, when it's been proven again and again. It's just a limitation of our vision. We have like that camera, the P900, it has the digital zoom of like 100 times or something like that, or much more than that, I'm not sure. But you see the ship disappear, and then if you zoom in closer, once the resolution is made out, you can see the boat again. And it may look like the bottom is disappearing first, but it's a lot of the times it's a matter of refraction, and it has a lot to do with the visibility, temperature, humidity. It affects it, so it kind of mirages, and what you think you see as the visible horizon, it's actually not the true horizon, because there's distortions that happen at that long distance.
Sure. So what I want to talk about is what happens when you try to discuss this because right now we don't see who you are. Yeah. And that's because it's uncomfortable to talk about, right? Like you can't really have this type of conversation with regular people because they think you're crazy or something. Yeah?
Yeah. So when I first started looking at the stuff and came to the conclusion that there's legs to this thing, I was so excited, and I think it's the most fascinating thing I've ever come across. It's amazing. It's like you go through all the stages of grief. Yes, that, for sure. But there's also this jubilant moment when you just want to share it with everyone. And when I started doing that, there's a lot of rejection, and then a lot of people shut you down immediately, or just it's more comfortable for them to dismiss it and that's just crazy. I don't want to hear it. Yeah. So it's been a long time since I've really talked to anyone about it. For my family and all that. That's it's funny. I have an Instagram post where I remember before I found out about flat Earth, and then the next post I knew, like between those 2 dates, that's when I kind of found out and became a flat earther. It was kind of fast for me. And then I remember that because the post was when I went to a baseball game with my mom, and I talked to her about all this stuff, and I was just so fascinated by it, and she seemed kind of like open about it, but then after that it never came back up. And then I've even heard her say a couple of things about flat earthers, kind of in a dismissive and making fun of way. But so I never talked about it again. And then it happened with my brother at his bachelor party. We were in the middle at a bar, middle of the night.
Probably not the best time to bring that up.
Well, I didn't bring it up personally. Yeah. I don't know what we were talking about, and somehow the moon landings came up, and he mentioned something about the moon landing. Well, you don't believe the moon landings, right? And then somehow one of his friends kind of picked up and he's like, "Wait a minute, are you a flat earther?" And I was like, yeah. And then from that must have been like around 10 o'clock or something like that. And then next thing I know, I'm at the hotel lobby with my brother at 3 a.m. talking about this stuff. And at the end of it, he just kind of threw his hands up in the air and he was like, I just don't have time to think about this. My life is so busy that I don't have the time to think about this.
I get that from a regular person's perspective. It's easier to just accept what you're told, and I mean, he's probably got deadlines at work and
absolutely.
kids to take care of or car payment, like whatever. There's always a million things that can occupy your time.
But yeah, I mean, we never talked about it ever again. And it's just, I don't talk about it with a lot of people. I know I have some friends that are open to it, and I also know quite a few flat earthers. And then just been following the YouTube community, I guess. A lot of people are like, "Oh, you're just learning all this stuff on YouTube." It's like, I learned to cook on YouTube too, you know?
YouTube is a valuable resource for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
If you don't get kicked off. And so that was the other thing I wanted to talk about. Is there anything else you want to add to Flat Earth, or are we pretty good?
I mean, there's so much more, and I feel like I
think it's a good base.
Yeah, for sure. And here's the thing about Flat Earth. I'll wrap it up on this. I don't expect you to be convinced about it right now, because that would be silly.
I think it's very interesting. I don't say I believe it.
And you shouldn't right now, because you haven't really given the time to
I like to keep an open mind on everything. And unless I have like 100% concrete proof on anything, I just like to keep an open mind. I just like to have conversations, and I think it's possible. So I'm willing to discuss it with you for sure and hear what you have to say about it. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's great. Having an open mind is, I mean, if anything, it's an exercise in keeping an open mind and realizing that maybe not everything is the way it is presented to us.
I strongly believe there are many things that we're told that are not true.
Right.
I don't know what they are, but there are so many things. There are thousands of conspiracy theories on various, like JFK is a great one. I truly believe the CIA or some sort of government faction was involved with that. Yeah. So they haven't come out and said anything about that. There's no way we are being told the truth about everything. There's no way. I mean, they denied aliens forever, and then just within the last year or so?
Well, I think it has a little bit to do with this flat Earth thing, because when you start to disclose the aliens, you look into, for example, Project Bluebeam is this idea, is this thing on by NASA. That's the NASA Bluebeam project, and one of the steps is to make the world believe that there's like some aliens. So a lot of that, and secret plans. So
Project Bluebeam conspiracy theory suggests NASA has secret plans to create a new world order.
Well, I mean, so the idea is that NASA and it's not just NASA, but there's a concerted effort. All the space agencies are part of this propaganda machine that are connected. There's so much, connected to this alien agenda, making us believe that there's aliens from outer space.
Okay,
and
so wait a minute.
And it builds on the narrative that there's other worlds out there, that it's.
So you don't think there are other beings from different places?
How about this? It's called extraterrestrial, so extra terra land. So maybe there's more. If maybe like beyond Antarctica, maybe
if it goes on for infinity, there has to be something, right?
Well, if you're looking at that model, I don't think it's infinity.
Okay.
I think this is it as far as our experience. Whether there's more to it, and of course that's a whole another topic. But dimensions and realms.
So you think that Roswell and everything that happened and the denials for 60 years and then the recent admission that there are unidentified objects.
That there are unidentified UFOs. Excuse me.
They call it something different now. They don't call it a UFO anymore.
The UAPs, I think.
Something.
But for sure. Undeniable. You look at this night sky with an infrared camera, again, you'll see some crazy shit. But does that mean they're little like space guys, little green men from Mars? No, I don't think so personally. Maybe there's other lands beyond Antarctica, but that's speculation again. So I don't want to, get into that because, I mean, it's fun.
Okay, well, let's talk about, because you said something when we sat down at first before we started about discussing, and I'm going to try to use loose language, about discussing the virus that's been going on for the last couple years and people on YouTube getting their channels demonetized and canceled and deleted for discussing certain portions of that entire
narrative.
Narrative.
Yeah, I mean, so right, and that's a huge thing that if people don't realize that there is a huge concerted effort right now to censor information, I don't understand, like, people are putting blinders on or don't understand that this is happening, but there is a huge effort right now to censor. You see the fact check labels are coming up, when even though YouTube has confessed in court recently that fact checkers are just opinions. Like, they were sued, and they had to come out and say that fact checkers are really just opinions. So it's not really. They're just putting that label to propagandize again about what I hate using that word. There's certain words that I like to, there's a lot of words that can't be used because they could be used.
And you're saying words that are spoken.
Yeah, the algorithms can
the
track
algorithm
that, and
can
then
find it.
If your channel is big enough, I guess I could be, or even if not, I don't know. But I know that the algorithms can track certain words.
Yeah.
And flag content and block.
And so what you were talking about, people who are discussing the virus and what words they're using to get around the algorithm?
No, sure.
What are those words?
I think it's common to use, the treatment, for example, or, the whole COVID thing is a whole another thing. And, people are having to self-censor and be strategic because you can't openly discuss a lot of these ideas openly without getting your livelihood or a lot of content creators are losing their livelihood over misusing or not being careful enough to use the right words, right?
Have you ever heard of Media Monarchy? James Evan Pilato?
Yeah.
James Corbett?
Yeah, James Corbett. Oh, they went on their own, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I know James Evan Pilato because I'm friends with his wife. Yeah, I used to work with her. And I don't know exactly where they're both at with their independent channels, but they, as far as I know, had to leave YouTube because, they're both doing awesome reporting and investigative journalism, if that's what you want to call it, where they're exposing alternative thoughts and theories and stuff. And they both had successful YouTube channels, and I don't know that they can be on YouTube anymore.
Yeah.
They're banned.
Yeah, they're some of the best.
Yeah, it's pretty wild that you can't just have conversations for people to listen to.
Right.
It goes back to what I was saying earlier about critical thinking. You should be allowed to be exposed to ideas and have enough intelligence to figure out what is crazy and what's not.
Sure.
But
again, if flat Earth is so crazy, then why not just let these crazy people have their shows and talk about this archaic scientifically disproven, quote unquote, guys, ideas. No, it's being highly censored. When you look up, and this is both flat Earth, COVID, and more, the search engines have been optimized. So when you look up this stuff the first time, if you've just heard about it and you want to look into it, you look it up, and everything you're going to get is going to be content that's going to point you in the wrong direction. For as far as flat Earth stuff, it's just countless numbers of sort of like these debunked videos that supposedly have millions and millions of views, but all it is it's garbage. It's people insulting flat earthers and making fun, but the flat earthers again and again come back and debunk the debunkers. And same with COVID. I mean, that the propaganda. I mean, if people haven't woken up to the fact that, about the COVID narrative at all, it's amazing to me. It seems so blatant to me.
What's your perspective on everything that's been happening?
I mean, so this comes from a crazy flat earther, but just having been exposed to looking, questioning authority and being really super critical about the information that's told in the mainstream for so many years. As soon as this all came out, it wasn't obvious immediately, but it was less than 2 weeks to flatten my curve. There were so many kind of alternative voices from the beginning. And again, it's not just basement dwellers. It's doctors, it's scientists, it's virologists, it's people that know their stuff, that came forth and they were talking, their truth, risking it all, and a lot of them did, put their lives and careers and livelihood at jeopardy.
And then they got destroyed.
And then they did, yeah. And still to this day, it's hard to look at it from a outside perspective because I've already been exposed to so many kind of out there ideas.
Yeah.
But it just never made sense to me.
Yeah, the thing that really bothers me is that it follows political lines. I mean, it didn't seem like things could become more divisive than they were after 2016 with Trump and Hillary, but COVID made everything even more divisive. And I do these thought experiments sometimes where I'm like, what if Trump had won and he did the exact same thing that Biden did?
Yeah.
Everyone on the left would have been freaking out. They'd been like, we're not wearing masks everywhere. We're not getting vaccinated. Trump is a dictator and he's trying to kill us. None of it is based, not none of it, but a lot of it is not based in fact or scientific theory. It's all political.
Yeah, I mean,
it's so frustrating. If you don't wear a mask to the grocery store, there are a ton of states right now that haven't had mask mandates for a very long time. I have friends in Florida. I have friends in Texas.
Yeah, just came back from Texas.
Yeah, they're like, it does not. Nobody talks about it. It doesn't look like it's going on. You come here to Portland, people are walking around downtown Portland wearing masks.
Oh, I mean,
outside. You
go to a children's playground and kids 1 and up are messed up. And here's the thing that gets me, and it's this, again, this propaganda line of follow the science. I don't know what science these people are following other than, the voices that are on the news. But the science is there's so many papers about the hazards of wearing masks over time. Like, for example, here's the thing about COVID: you don't have to get into conspiracy to think this whole thing is insane. There is a story on a mainstream news outlet about a speech therapist that's her business is kids that have developed or not developed speech in the early ages because of all the mandates and the restrictions.
Because they can't read lips?
Well, can't read lips. It's just when you're a kid and when you're a baby, that's how you learn social cues and you learn about people through their faces. And if all they're seeing is these faces covered up, and that's when they grew up and kind of fearing a face. But this lady was saying that her patients, the early year patients, have gone up like 360% because of kids that are not developing. And I see that with my kids. I've never masked my kids. I tried on an airplane once, and he took it off immediately, and they didn't say anything, which was cool. But I refuse because I look at the science, and the science is telling me that the mortality rates for children are 0.0003%. Let's round that up. That's zero. I mean, and okay, there's people that are immunocompromised and older folks, and I get that. But this idea that you're instilling into your children that you're going to kill grandma if you don't put this cloth mask, which, by the way, now is not gonna do anything.
Yeah.
Even though for over a year that was the thing to do.
Yes.
I remember when I got that mask for my son, just because we were gonna fly, and on the back of the mask and the fine print it says not a science or not a medical device. Like, this is not gonna prevent anything. Like, it's right here, guys. It's in the fine print, and I get it. They have to. And there's a lot of that kind of stuff, but that stuff really,
it's difficult to fall in line with all that stuff when originally Fauci said that you don't need a mask, and secretly he was telling everyone that because he didn't want there to be a run on N95s, and he wanted them to be reserved for the medical personnel who needed them, which is understandable. But he still told. He's God right now. And
is he still? Are people still trusting this guy?
Yeah, for sure. He's the singular voice on COVID for a lot of people. And he told everyone that you didn't need a mask because he didn't want there to be a run on the masks. Then that changed. He was lying to everyone. Then that changed, and it was considered general fact that you needed to wear a mask all the time. And then just recently they said cloth masks aren't good enough, and now you need something more powerful. You need an N95. There's people in Portland walking around with 2 masks.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to trust the people in charge when they're lying to you and when they don't fully understand what's happening and they're just telling you to do stuff. And after 2 years, people can't handle it anymore. When this thing happened, people were really concerned that we were all going to die. And I remember being scared. Everybody was scared. Nobody knew what was going to happen. But over the course of time, we kind of figured out that this was a dangerous disease that would really affect obese people and the older population, and especially the people who had other issues that were immunocompromised.
Average 3 or 4 comorbidities.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like you said, it was proven the entire time that it was not an issue for children. Kids are are healthy. They're the healthiest you ever will be. And that's what you're doing when you're growing up. Your body's developing. You're constantly fighting everything. And that's the thing that bums me out so bad about what's happening right now is no one trusts their body anymore. If you are healthy and you exercise and you take vitamins and you do all those things that boost the health of your body, like you should be doing anyway.
Yep.
You are not in dire need of medicine. You are doing the thing that you're supposed to do that allows your body to fight off all those things that are trying to kill you. You could die any moment of any day. There's inherent risk in almost every activity, and you can't just expect the government to like put bubble wrap around everything. And a lot of people have become accustomed to that and turned it into a political thing where, whenever I go anywhere, I always put the mask on just because I don't want to create issues, you know? I don't want to be seen as an asshole.
Yeah.
And so I do it, but I've never, short of that first month or two, I've not been concerned about contracting a disease. It's not the Black Plague.
It's certainly marketed as the Black Plague,
Yeah,
and it continues to be.
I know. But there's a lot of pushback now. There are a lot of politicians who were very, very hard on it, who are walking things back because...
Well, there's elections coming up too.
It's true. Yeah. And there's a movement for a lot of those people who were very fervent supporters of mask mandates and vaccination mandates. They're just, dude, how long are we going to do this? How long are we going to do this?
All it takes is, to condition the next generation to be this compliant generation, and then you get them when they're kids, and same happened with the globe. You have this idea, and then you never look back. Like, I'm afraid to see what happens with this next generation of kids, especially now. I see it, when I go to the playground with my son, when I, again, looking at the mainstream numbers, like the chances of quote unquote catching it on outdoors is slim, and you should be breathing oxygen. That's what's healthy, But seeing, young kids that are messed up, and when my son's very outgoing, and he goes up to them, and I've seen it many times where they kind of back up and they're like, this guy's not wearing a mask. What is going to happen with this generation? It's concerning.
There are going to be significant psychological issues for a lot of people.
For sure. And was it worth it?
I mean, I'm sure there were some old people who got to survive, but for the majority of people, I mean, I don't know how many people you know, but just on the last wave with Omicron, I got it. One of my kids got it for the second time. All my other kids had it. My ex-wife had it. Like, many people at work had it.
I had it too, but so it's again one of those issues where if we're following the science, we have to look at the foundations of where these ideas come from. And I think like this flat earth thing kind of, got me to a point where I was ready to accept that maybe there's other things besides the shape of the earth that are not foundationally sound as far as the science is concerned. And when, the work of these dissenting scientific voices started coming out, and you start to realize that the entire foundation of virology could be completely wrong. I don't know if you've heard about what goes through, and when they claim that they isolate like a virus, it's this process of taking this live sample and then adding all these adjuvants like monkey kidney tissues and all these. I can't even off the top of my head, but essentially, there's no virus that's been isolated, and this is through freedom of information. Anywhere there's even the first test that was created was based on a tissue from some guy in Wuhan that they assumed had the virus. So everything, when you start to look back and you look at the work of Stefan Lanka, who's a virologist in Germany, who's proven that no virus has been isolated. That's a whole nother rabbit hole to go down. But essentially, and there's a ton of content out there. Again, it's not basement dwellers. It's doctors. It's scientists. It's virologists. People that are putting their life on the neck to to show that this whole thing is not what it is being told to us.
Yeah, the thing that that I was having a conversation with somebody, and they were like, well, what? It's free. You can get the vaccination for free. They're not making any money. And I'm like, the U.S. government is paying for every shot. Like, there's a significant incentive to get everyone vaccinated. Pfizer expects $54 billion in 2022 sales on COVID vaccine and treatment pill. Pfizer's making a fuck ton of money that the U.S. government is paying them with imaginary money that becomes debt that we supposedly pay for in taxes somehow. It's free to every person, but these guys are making a fucking ridiculous amount of money. It's not really free. And so when anybody says something about, I'm vaccinated. I got vaccinated because I wanted to go to Europe. I went last July, and there's no way. You can't go unless you have a card.
Yeah.
And so I personally would not have done it. I feel like I trust my body. I take care of myself, and I feel like I would have been fine had I gotten it then. But I wanted to travel, so I got it for that reason. So I'm part of that community that got a free shot that was subsidized by the government, made Pfizer some extra dollars. And I see these groups on Meetup where they say, we're meeting at a coffee shop, blah, blah, blah. You have to show your vaccination card to get in.
Wow.
That does not prevent you from having it. That does not prevent you from spreading it. You're creating a club based on ideology, which is fucking crazy. Anybody that doesn't keep you from anything. Like, you could still pass to anyone, but you're not allowed in that thing at the coffee shop.
Yeah, by the mainstream definitions, for sure. Right.
It's so convoluted.
It's illogical. Yeah.
It's so convoluted, and people are so confused. And I think a lot of people are just trying to do the right thing, which I understand.
I get it.
But it just became a political issue, and it is so frustrating for a lot of reasons.
For sure.
Yeah. But we're 2 years in, maybe.
Well, things are easing up. Apparently, Portland is supposed to be lifting mask mandates at the end of March. Sure.
Well, supposedly that's supposed to happen, but the school that my kids go to, they just sent out a questionnaire on Google, Google form, whatever the thing is, and they wanted to know, because if they if they make everybody wear a mask, including the teachers, they are allowed free testing. And if somebody tests positive, they only have to send that kid home. If they remove the masks, they don't get the free testing from the state. And if somebody tests positive, I forget the exact. I'd have to look it up, but it basically incentivizes you to continue to keep the masks on the kids. And I wrote back, and I don't want to sound angry or crazy or something. I just said, in the message to the to the principal, I was like, all of my kids already had it. My youngest had it twice. How many people in the school have had it? Is it over 50%? Everybody wore a mask for a year and a half, and all these people got it. Mm-hmm. If we take the masks off now, people are still going to get it. It exists. It is going to continue to exist. I don't think there's anything we can do about it. I think from the CDC and from Fauci, they've said it is part of life now. So you can't just think that wearing a mask is going to protect everybody forever. That's not a way to live. Like you said, it's going to, kids need to see facial features. They need to recognize what your mouth is doing and what your teeth are doing and what your tongue is doing and see smiles and stuff. Like, if you just block that portion of the face forever, it's going to mess people up. My youngest son was in kindergarten, and then in March when everything got shut down, so he had only been in school for 4 or 5 months.
Sure.
Then he was out the entire next year. Okay, then he came back this year as a second grader.
Whoa.
And he's been wearing a mask the entire time. And so I was talking to him the other day, and I was like, dude, you don't even know what your friends look like.
That's wild.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
He's been in school.
So they never take him off or lunch and stuff like that? Or what's that like?
He said they take him off at recess when they're outside, which is cool. But at lunch, I don't know if this is the case in the elementary school, but in my son's junior high, they pop the mask down, take a bite, pop the mask back up. That's how they're supposed to. And so I'll go pick him up after school, and he'll still be wearing it. He'll get in the car. I'm like, hey, dude, you take your mask off. It's cool.
Yeah.
It is creating a new normal and a new psychological, like, they don't know. They just, that's what you have to do.
It's like
you wear shoes. You have to wear a shirt. You have to wear a deodorant. Like, it's just a thing you have to do now. And it becomes part of like the social lexicon. Yeah. And it's not good.
It's not good.
It's not good.
Yeah, I mean, that term, the new normal, how fast were they to roll that out at the beginning of this? It was like it was marketed immediately. Like it was at the same time as the 2 weeks to flatten the curve. The new normal. I mean, I hate the term conspiracy theory. You go back to learn the term, the origins of that word, and it was created by the CIA to discredit people who were looking into the JFK thing, right? So and it's become this thing where if you even question or hold an opposing perspective from the mainstream, then you're labeled. And the term is growing too. It's like like the conspiracy theory, the far right wing conspiracy theory. We gotta also. No one talks about the far left wing conspiracy theory that the government really cares about you. Like, I don't know.
I don't think anyone in politics cares about you.
I don't think so.
I don't care what side they're on. None of them care about you.
And sure, like local, maybe. At the national level, I don't think so.
No.
No matter what side. Yeah.
There's too much money involved. Since, was it Citizens United? Was that the one where they allowed unlimited I think I'm getting it confused with something. There was some act that happened. I have a friend who knows a lot about it. I wish he'd come on and talk to me. There was something that happened, I want to say like 2012, 2013, that allowed unlimited money without a tie to where it came from.
Cool.
And that was the beginning of super PACs. That act allowed unlimited amount of money to be funneled into political campaigns. And he told me, and I thought he was like crazy when he told me, because he's always just spouting shit off. And he told me that one day. He's like, "This is the end of it, man. This is the end. They can put whatever money they want into it now, and it doesn't matter anymore. It's not like you could be Zuckerberg and give $1 billion to Hillary Clinton and not have to be accountable for it. No one knows you gave it." He's like, "This is the end of everything." And I was like, man, this is some doomsday shit. But like,
pretty bad.
It's true.
You can really control some people with that.
It's over, man. Yeah. There's no way. I don't know how they would go back on that. You cannot be. You or I could not run for office, Senate, House, President, whatever. There's no way we would ever gain enough steam without getting corporate money to do whatever they wanted us to do.
Yeah.
There's no way. So the system's fucked. And
for sure.
That's what's just so frustrating about the whole thing. It's like, I don't know there's no way out. And the cool thing is, you have YouTube and you have social media and you have all these different platforms where you can spread this information until it's deemed against the narrative, and then they fucking
there's
delete you.
So many, other platforms that have come up because of that are allowing that type of freedom of communication and really freedom of speech should be for everyone, not just, what you don't agree on, right?
Yeah.
The opposite. But and it's the media is so corrupt, and it's so surprising. People don't see through that, but immediately when these kind of freedom of speech first platforms are launched, they're immediately labeled like, "Oh, these far right, racist." Mm-hmm. It's like, no. Like, sure, there's bad seeds everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. But freedom of speech is incredibly important. Now more than ever.
Mm-hmm.
Now more than ever.
Yeah, because I don't know how many people know, but even if you go to Canada, like Canada has different freedom of speech rules than the United States do. The United States is pretty cool when it comes to freedom of speech. And I know they're trying to silence a lot of people on the internet. But in Canada, you can get in serious trouble for saying the wrong thing.
It's pretty bad right now with I don't know if you've been following what's going on in Canada right now, but
with the truckers in Ottawa?
Well, yeah, Trudeau enacting that emergency act, then he's able to freeze your bank account.
Yes.
Amongst other things. But it's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's scary.
So that's why it's not about like an anti-vax thing. It's just like an anti-mandate thing that people need to stand up right now. And it's so tricky, and it's so unpalatable to compare anything to the Nazis, obviously, but it had to start somewhere, right? And I'm not saying that's where we're gonna go. Nope, I'm not saying that. But I have this idea that all along, you look back at history, there's always that group of people that were okay with it until things were. That's the power of propaganda, Nazis probably thought they were doing the right thing.
Things escalate.
Things escalate pretty
Snowballs
crazy.
roll down the hill. Yeah, you can't really compare anything to the Nazis.
And I'm not
saying you are. I'm just saying lots of people get in trouble when they Like even just Elon did something where he
Yeah,
compared
I saw that.
to
And-
Hitler. Like you can't do that, dude.
And again, I'm not saying that
Hitler is Hitler.
But going back to, I mean, I guess this is my personal belief, but going back to, slavery days, like the people that were slave owners had to somehow be convinced that they were superior enough to be able to own people, and I don't think people are born with that in their blood. Like I think people are generally, I don't know, maybe I'm naive, but
That's an insane thought when you really think about it. When you think about owning a human,
right, or people that were, the conquistadors that came and just slaughtered the natives, or and again, it may seem like very outlandish comparisons, but it's all a matter of, I don't know, scale, I guess. But if we don't stand up right now for, freedom of speech, freedom to choose what you want to do with your own body, and let people live their lives, as long as they're not. I mean, I'm a live and let live type of guy. That's my motto, and as long as you're not hurting anyone, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's important that we not let the government get to that level.
Yeah, regardless of who's in power.
Yeah,
you should be able to
absolutely
to interpret it in an unbiased, objective way. You don't want anyone with that much power telling you what to do, because it just sets precedence for the next person, and then it's a slippery slope.
And the next generation.
Yeah. All right, I think that's a good spot. So
Heavy.
thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks for having me over.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah.